Kathleen Kenendy told Shawn Levy to avoid legacy Star Wars characters in Starfighter. We talked about this a little bit before, and this stems from a more recent interview with Shawn Levy, where Shawn Levy had previously said something about, and he's making this new Starfighter film, that if you have seen some of the rumors and the leaks out there, whatever you want to call them, Rey Palpatine will be making an appearance in this film. Because people have been asking, what happened to the stupid Rey movie? Nobody knows. It's Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. Remember, recently she did not talk about it. She did an interview with a major Hollywood publication. They talked about all of her upcoming works, everything that's on her slate in the next couple of years that she's working on. There was no mention in that interview of a Star Wars movie, which was incredibly conspicuous. But if you remember the Walt Disney Company, they walked Daisy Ridley out on the stage back in April of 23, now almost 3 years ago, and announced the next chapter with Rey and all this kind of crap. And literally nothing has happened since then. Nothing successful has happened since then. There has been no script produced, even though that they've gone through 4 different, at least maybe 5 different screenwriters. They have gone through multiple directors. What happened to all of these things that Kathleen Kenendy said were happening? They apparently don't exist, with the exception of, the notable exception of, obviously the Mando and Grogu film, which will come out next summer and probably not do what Disney is hoping it will. But this Shawn Levy thing, the guy who did Deadpool and Wolverine. Previously, Shawn Levy had talked about how he was so excited to do this. He'd always wanted to do one, and he's finally getting to do a movie like he wanted to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And then the rumors started coming out, and you look at what this is, and you start seeing, does anybody believe the fact that Shawn Levy really wants to do a Star Wars movie about Disney Star Wars? A guy who says he's a big fan. I seriously doubt it. So now we have this. Kathleen Kenendy told Shawn Levy to avoid legacy Star Wars characters in Starfighter. According to hints from director Shawn Levy, his upcoming Star Wars film, Star Wars Starfighter, will be unlike anything fans have seen before. Oh, I have a feeling it's going to be a lot like the crap we've seen before. Levy is clear that the, quote, do something new mandate isn't something he demanded before coming on board, but it is an instruction coming from Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kenendy to avoid Star Wars characters, or legacy Star Wars characters, which would be, of course, the only real Star Wars character. Shawn Levy told Vanity Fair earlier this week that he had been hoping to make a Star Wars movie since Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012. While waiting for a callback, he turned his efforts towards other projects like Free Guy, Stranger Things, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Star Wars Direct had posted this on X. Shawn Levy shared how Kathleen Kenendy influenced his approach to Star Wars Starfighter. I said, what's it a prequel to? What's it a sequel to? And Kathleen Kenendy said, whatever you want. Make it feel like your movies feel. It was just this incredibly empowering opportunity. Now, how many of y'all think, you're telling me that we already have rumors from previously very reliable sources out there that say that the movie is, multiple of them, I might add, the movie is going to wind up involving Rey Palpatine. You're telling me that this is something that Shawn Levy just pulled out of the rabbit's hat, or this is a rabbit that he pulled out of the hat, right? I doubt it. In August of 22, Shawn Levy finally received the long-awaited phone call to adventure. Kathleen Kenendy told me, I want you to do a Star Wars movie. I asked the obvious question, which one? What's it a prequel to? And her immediate answer was, whatever one you want, make it feel like your movies feel. If that sounds eerily familiar, there's a reason for that. During a promotion for The Acolyte, Kathleen Kenendy told the New York Times that after reading an early draft of the script in 2019, she had a message for showrunner Leslie Headland. You've written a great Star Wars show, now go write a Leslie Headland show. The end result was one of the biggest disasters in streaming history. Yep.
The power of one. The power of two. The power of...
However, Shawn Levy has proven himself in ways that Leslie Headland has not. Despite recent revelations on the astronomical spending on Deadpool and Wolverine, which over $500 million in production alone for Deadpool and Wolverine on the gross spend. Still, effectively handing Shawn Levy the keys to the Star Wars franchise shows a tremendous amount of trust on Kennedy's part. She didn't simply give him permission to choose his own Star Wars adventure, placing his movie in any era he wished, but actively encouraged him to carve his own path out with new characters. It's confirmed that Starfighter will take place 5 years after the rise of Skywalker, lending itself to the possibility of sequel characters appearing. However, Kenedy herself seems to have discouraged that. During an interview on a podcast for The Playlist, Levy suggested Kathleen Kenedy has encouraged him to steer clear of the familiar legacy Star Wars characters. Every time I asked, should I, Shawn Levy, use this character that was maybe in that movie? Every time it's, you know what? People have seen that. Do something new. A fair question to ask is that do fans want all new characters? Ryan Gosling will star in Starfighter, and there's a set image of it right there, alongside Matt Smith, who was heavily rumored to have supposed to have been in The Rise of Palpatine, episode 9, and then disappeared, even to the point where it was known in many circles that there were lots of Star Wars toys that had gone into production for that film of characters like Matt Smith's that never made it to the movie, and then the toys were destroyed. Mia Goth, who recently starred in Frankenstein, Aaron Pierre, Amy Adams, and other actors of note. A fan theory that Amy Adams might be playing Mara Jade, an important character in the Star Wars lore, sparked a degree of excitement or dread in the fandom. A rumor that Daisy Ridley might reprise her role as Rey was also a source of some anxiety. The do something new mandate seems to pour cold water on the idea that either Mara Jade or Rey will appear in Starfighter. Whether this signals that Kenedy wants to move on from poorly received sequels or that she's rejecting everything beloved about Star Wars aside from the name remains to be seen. Here's the thing I can actually believe, and we talked about this weeks ago, this rumor that came out there from a few places that this Shawn Levy movie at some point during production was going to, or was said to involve Rey. There's a lot of reasons, as I mentioned previously, I think that makes a ton of sense because, again, they marched Daisy Ridley out on stage 3 years ago to say that she was coming back. They're probably going to want to find some place to use her. And if they can't put her in a standalone, this movie is all about Rey Skywalker, Palpatine, then they're probably still going to want to use the character in some capacity. And in something like Starfighter, it'd be perfect because then you get to bill the movie as something different, and then Rey shows up. Every time I ask, should I use this character that was maybe in this movie, every time it's, you know what, people have seen that, do something new. If this is actually about legacy characters, well, Rey is not a legacy character. I don't know if he's talking about, I'd like to have Han. I'd like to have Luke. I'd like to have this. I'd like to have that. If he could do anything he wanted, why did he choose to set this 5 years after the last film? Because that whole era is a dead era. It's a crashed era. It's an era that Star Wars fans are not interested in. So honestly, where else do you go at that point but with Rey? You know, Kennedy's idea of, well, people have already seen that. Not from Disney. Disney has not given Star Wars fans anything of original Star Wars in the last 10 years, 13 years, whatever it's been they've had this. 10 years now since the first Disney Star Wars movie came out. Why not take a shot?
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.